Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Hi friends, I am so excited to be bringing you what is basically a dark romance recommendation. So I think that's what we'll call it, but it is The Villain Gets the Girl, okay? So what's funny though, is I'm not going to show you this whole stack yet because I want to talk about the books as I show them to you. All of these books in this stack except for one are black and red, and I didn't even realize that I did that. Right? Because I actually make the list before I grab the books off my shelf. And as I grabbed all the books, I have them in a stack and every single one except one is black and red. So there's that, which is funny. You could tell what the color of villainy is, right? Black and red. So Villain Gets the Girl. Now, we may be playing a little fast and loose with this. A lot of times in a romance novel, we call everybody the hero who's the main love interest too, just because it's like hero role, like the main one. So some of these are more anti-heroes. One of the series I'm going to share even has that in the name. But they either start as a villain or the job they do is villainous, or they just do stay a villain the whole time, right? But they are morality chaining it, right? So they are good for their girl, even if they themselves are like still a villain, okay? So that's the only qualifications we'll do for this. And of course, as I read each book, I'll explain to you which one is which. So there will be a range of it. Definitely some are more villainous than others. Some are maybe just misunderstood. You just decide for yourself. So the first one I want to share with you is actually, I have the bind up of 3 because I have a couple of these are, but because I never show off the bind up. I always show off the one cover of it. But the first villain that I want to share is actually Remo Falcone. So Falcone, whatever we're calling him. So this is the bind up of the first 3 Kimura Chronicles, which I need to get the second bind up of this. But, book 3 is Twisted Pride. I think most people would agree that he fits the villainous category in what he does and how he acts, for the most part of his story, right? Remo begins his story by kidnapping a woman on her wedding day. He kidnaps Serafina, who is the daughter of one of his enemies, and he really wants to make his enemies suffer. So literally on her way to the church to get married, she is stolen and taken to Las Vegas, which is his domain, and being kept prisoner. Now, his plan isn't to rape her and hurt her, okay? It isn't. But he doesn't let her know that. He is more than willing to use that manipulation, that fear, to break her and make her scared, and to make her father very afraid as well. That he is totally fine with doing that, okay? And more so even than her father as well, like the Don, which is, I believe, Dante's who we're dealing with. Yeah, Dante and Remo. Things are never going to go well between those folks. And he plans to use her to force a deal to happen. But of course, even Remo, who is a sociopath, psychopath, and, you know, thinks he can't love and all these things, of course he's going to be proven wrong and he's going to start to fall for her. But what is more interesting, I think, as well, is how Serafina starts to fall for him, you know. And it's interesting to me too, because in this Mafia world, the women really are treated, you know, as the property. They're very much, it's the old school version of the Mafia in here, where they're set up in the marriages. They don't really get a choice. They have the babies. They're protected. They don't have a say. Their husbands cheat on them, like, and they don't have a say in that. Like, all of those things are very, like, true. But what I like about this is that when it first starts, like, the Vegas Kimura, they don't want anything to do with women at all besides, like, fucking them when they want to. I mean, they don't, like, disrespect them, but they don't want complications of romances to happen. And they, honestly, though they, you know, aren't evil to women, they do consider them equal, and like, if you fuck up, there's no special treatment for you because you're a woman. That's something that I do like kind of respect about him, is it's like there's some trouble that happens for the other mafias where a woman is willing to do what she's got to do, and they're like, oh, but it's just a woman. And like, Remo and his brothers, they know that a woman can be just as dangerous because that's a part of their story, is how a woman fucked them over. And you'll see it later on anyway. But yeah, so Remo, I think a lot of people would consider a villain, and Twisted Pride, Twisted Emotions is wonderful too, but that one's, I wouldn't consider Nino a villain. Even though he's Remo's like secondhand, I see him differently. But Remo really like relishes the evil and the chaos that he causes because he just doesn't follow the same rules as the other mafias that he deals with do, as the other organized crime syndicates that he deals with do. And that makes him a loose cannon that they don't know how to handle, because it's like, you know, it's like dealing with an atom bomb, trying to keep it like, good luck, right? Good fucking luck. So yeah. But Twisted Pride is in my favorite romances ever. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, can I just start with it? I don't personally think you need to read number 1 in this series, but something that I've always said, and I do have a full video where I break down all the Cora Riley books. It was one of my first Mafia videos I ever made, or it's over there. I'll take it. The reason why Twisted Pride is in my top books ever is because of the build up to it, right? That's the thing that's tough for me when I'm recommending a book in a series, is that I get so excited about that single book. I'm gonna put this down now because this one's fucking heavy. Is people want to be like, oh, well, can I just read that book? And sometimes you can. Sometimes I can say, yes, you can just read this book and you will have just as much of a good time with it as if you read all the other ones. And then sometimes, like, the reason this book like worked so well for me was the build up through watching Remo, and we know he's crazy. We've seen the chaos he's caused. So now when there's this woman who's kind of forcing him to look at things differently, you're like, whoa, who is this woman? Because of how much we notice the difference. So this is a series where I've changed with time a little bit. I think you could start at the beginning, at least, of the Cumorah Chronicles if you want to. You could start with Twisted Loyalties and go from there. But if you're someone who is a completionist, I do suggest you start with the Born in Blood series and just look up an order. Like I said, I have an order right there if you want to do that. So anyway, didn't mean to talk too long about that one, but Remo's just way, way up there with some of my favorites. Then this is the duet that I said is the Antiheroes, so you probably know what I'm talking about. There is the Antiheroes in Love duet. Yes, my beautiful, beautiful Mystic Box editions. These are one of the first Mystic Box that I got, and it's stunning, y'all. It's stunning. So there is When Heroes Fall and When Villains Rise, and this is called the Antiheroes in Love duet. And so our antihero is honestly both of them, right? Like the sister in here, Elena, she is kind of seen as the villain in some of the other stories. Like, she's seen as the bitchy sister, but honestly, a lot of horrible things have happened to her to put her in the mental state that she is in the beginning of this series. And Dante, there's just something that he sees in her, and she's actually in the beginning his lawyer. He's being charged with a murder, but they're trying to take him down, I think, in a RICO case, which we won't get into all of that, but it's one of the ways that the government has to take down mafia syndicates when like a boss isn't the one actually doing stuff. Anyway, you can look that up. If you want to look up RICO, go look that up. But he needs, Elena's job is to help get him out of it. Now, she has a great distaste for the mafia because it has ruined parts of her family. It has made things bad for her, so she doesn't have a lot of respect for him. But Dante is this very special type of mafia don where he can be so soft and loving. He's very affectionate, not only, you know, with his family, but with people under him. Like, he's very affectionate, and it's only if you disappoint him or you do it wrong that the hammer comes down. And I like that. It's not a game that he plays, right? Like, there's plenty of mafia stories where they'll like act away, but if you step out of line, you're gonna get bitch slapped, right? Like, think of how many abused heroines we have because their fathers are like that, or their dad, or their fathers, or their husbands, or you know, just the mafia bosses like that to the women. And Dante is very much, it's a family, because he knows if people love you, they will fight so much harder for you than if they fear you, right? Those type of people will turn on you in a moment. But if you really have a family, you're together. So he has a lot of wooing to do with Elena because she is just so broken from other things that she survived. But I just love their romance so much. It's so powerful. It's a great story. Okay, onward with the black and red. I, of course, would be a foolish girl not to have share Lothair with you, who is a big villain in this series leading up to his book and a little bit after. Although now he more just like pretends that he's going to kill people afterwards because Elizabeth would never let him do that. But Lothair is the enemy of old, Leo, as he's affectionately called by his woman, and he finds his fated mate in the form of a human woman, a human young woman who happens to be possessed by a goddess of death. And so he's pretty sure that it's the goddess that's his mate, but it's not. But he doesn't realize that right away, so he's in for a rude awakening, because how could fate give the most powerful vampire there's been in a millennia this weak human female that is gonna die soon? Like, what is this twist of fate he's dealing with? Well, she is a lot more than he would see on the surface, because he doesn't really look at people as, you know, worth anything. They're cattle, they're food, they're just an inconvenience. And to have that challenged by a little slip of a girl is beautiful to see. Like, oh, I just love it. This is also one of my favorite books of all time. I have quite a few of those like in this, because I love a redemption story, even when it's not redemption as in like they're now good, but redemption as in they have like love, you know. I think finding love and being loved is a type of redemption, whether you actually like, you know, become this good guy. Like, that's how I feel about it. Some people want to argue that and say that not everyone deserves love, but guess what? In romance novels, they do. They do. And Lothair gets his, and it's magnificent. Okay, moving along. Now, this is one of the ones that's definitely a bit softer, okay? This one is a bit softer of a villain gets the girl, because it's all about perspective. So, I have for you Stolen Heir. I never show this one off. This is my Romance Me book box edition that I got of Stolen Heir. I never show this one off, but look at the manor in here. Just looks so cool. So this is book 2 in the Brutal Birthright series. This is one you can start with this book. It's totally fine. In fact, not everyone loves Brutal Prince. I mean, I don't know who these crazy people are, but not everyone loves Brutal Prince. But you can kind of enter the Brutal Birthright through the first few books. You can kind of start wherever you want in there, and then if you're liking it, then maybe you'll want to go back. But either way, this one begins with Miko, who is at the beginning of this kind of the head of the like Polish mafia that's got it going on in, I think we're in Chicago, and geez, he kidnaps Nessa Griffin to panic her family, basically, because he blames them for the death of the previous leader, and he needs to get revenge. And he's a very cold-hearted, stone-faced man who he lost his sister to a suicide when they were younger, and since then he's really kind of lost all his emotion until Nessa, this beautiful little ballerina, gets brought into his beastly home and starts bringing him back to life. And I mean, it's just classic. It's a Beauty and the Beast tale. It is what it is. It's beautiful, and he definitely gets redeemed by her. I won't even pretend otherwise. This one's definitely a redemption story for sure, but he is the villain in her story until he is the hero, and I love a story like that for sure. Also black and red. See what we're doing here? Okay. Then we have one I've talked about a lot lately, so I won't go ad nauseum for this one, but we have Unholy Vows by Millie. This one is a dark mafia romance, and I'm obsessed with it. I'm also obsessed with this cover. Just appreciate its glory. It's beautiful. And this one is about, again, I have to look at the names. There's too many damn names in my life. Charlie is the heroine, Charlotte, and the hero is Renato. Yeah, Renato. And her sister sees something she shouldn't see. Her like boyfriend like cheats them out of something, and so he gets whacked, and her sister sees it and wants to go to the police, and Charlie's like, are you crazy? And so when they get like confronted by Renato, she's like, my sister's not going to say anything. We're going to keep quiet. Please let us live. Like, she was just involved with the wrong people. And Renato was like, okay, as long as she keeps her mouth shut, we're all good. Well, her sister is a scaredy cat and can't keep shit to herself, and she like tries to go to the police. And Renato is like, bitch, what you doing? And Charlie is like, bitch, what you doing? And so she's begging him, please, I'll do whatever you want. And he's like, I know how to fix this. And also because he's a greedy motherfucker. He's like, you're going to be my wife because I need a wife and you're beautiful. And that makes you and your sister my family. And now you won't be a threat to me anymore. Which logic's a little crazy because like it's not like the sister can't still go to the police to turn in a brother-in-law anymore. But anyway, that's the point. We're not supposed to. The sister's very annoying in this one, okay? The sister's very annoying. We'll just get over that right now. She's annoying. But Renato's just like, well, I want Charlie for myself, so I'm making this a reason. I don't want to kill her. I want to fuck her, and I want her to be my wife. And I want to try to breed her, so I'm going to get rid of her birth control and see if I can knock her up and make her stay with me. So yeah, I would consider him a bit of a villain, but he's super hot with her and great, and I love that he wins her over with just literally his seduction. His great dick wins her over. There's nothing else to say about it, okay? No. This was wonderful. This one did work like as a standalone to me, although it says like this is a part of, well, it says it's the original Sin series, but I thought this was originally like a duet, and I think there is another one coming here. But yeah, this one also connects with some of the other series like the Vicious Vengeance duet, the Maid of Mayhem duet. I've read those ones. And then she also has a bully romance series that like loosely connects with these books that I've been reading those too. So I love it. She writes lots of villainous characters, so it's good. Okay, then we have Run, Posey, Run by Kate C. Wells. And this is the alternate cover, and I actually love this one. It's so good. But Run, Posey, Run begins with our heroine who is actually dating a guy in the Mafia. Now, he's the money guy for the Mafia. He has a crazy, great brain. He's a bit neuroatypical, and neurodivergent, and a bit of a sociopath, psychopath, whichever we want to call him. And he gets sent a video of Posey cheating on him, okay? His name is Dario. And this isn't her in current time. It's an older like video of her, but he just believes it. And so he's like, get out of here, I'm gonna kill you. So she's like, what? And so she runs away. But then, number one, he misses her, and number two, he realizes that he overreacted, which is strange for him because he doesn't do that. He's very calculated. He doesn't do that. And so, you know, it's because he has feelings for her and he doesn't think that he can have feelings, right? I love a guy like that. So he decides, well, I want her back. Why did she actually leave me? I know I told her I would kill her, but like she actually left me. So he tries to find her again. And to make money, she is posting on campsites to make some money. And he's able to find her that way and drag her back. And then he goes about trying to convince her to stay with him and that he will actually pay attention and that he actually is obsessed with her and wants her. So it's not exactly a grovel that he does, but he does like, how can I prove to her that I want her and that I want this to work? What do I have to do? And I love that kind of stuff. So I love this one. But I would still consider him a bit of a villain because he kidnapped her. Okay, now we have one that I really feel like this is a villain, and we still don't know how his story will end yet. And we're not going to get into all of that in this one. But when I'm making one that says villain gets the girl, I would be lying if I didn't A, put San Mariano on this, and then B, look at her list of villains and decide who is the worst one, and I would say it's Dare. So this is Even If It Hurts. This is book 1 in the Coastal Elites, which things are really heating up in the Coastal Elite world right now. Like if you follow her or you're in the private group, like you know there's drama happening. But if you want to get in on that, you have time because she's next going to write a standalone, and then she'll be writing the next one in this series. But we get introduced to our key players in this one, and the first 4 books in the series are standalone romances. Like I personally think you should still read them in order, but like, you know, they're the typical like one couple, one book type thing. So this one is about Dare and I should know her name by now. I've said it so many times. Aubrey. I believe I just got that right. Dare and Aubrey. Yeah. And Dare is a sociopath. Absolutely. And he has this like fuck buddy. I wouldn't totally call her his girlfriend, but he has this fuck buddy. And she like dares him to mess with this new girl. Is she new at school? I don't think she's new there, but it's in Baymont High, and it's this beautiful place, but it says a land of beautiful villains and happily ever afters that are just out of reach. So, yeah, Aubrey is just trying to go unnoticed and make it through school, but unfortunately, she catches the eye of first like Anae, who's the one who's gonna pick at her, and then Dare. And he decides that he wants her, but the way he goes about getting her is quite interesting. We'll say that. We also get introduced to Hannah and Anae, like I said, and we won't get into that too much, but Hannah will be getting a few books eventually in the series. But when a villain gets a girl, we gotta say Dare and Aubrey in there when we do that, for sure. But if I didn't say, yeah, this is a high school bully romance, but I would more so honestly call Anae the bully, and he's just a psychopath who wants to play with her. So we'll say that. Okay, then we have God of Malice, and we have Killian, and isn't he just a sexy villain for sure? But we have Killian, who gets a look at Glyndon when she's having a tough night. Actually, she's having a tough night, and she's thinking about killing herself because a friend that she had, they had like a unaliving pack that they were going to both do it, and she chickened out. I hate using chicken out because she decided to live. How is that like chickening out, you know? And she's standing at the edge of a cliff contemplating it when Killian comes up and is like, do you need help jumping? And he's like, gonna like push her over. I know I'm smiling, I'm sorry. But he's like, well, I wanted to take a picture of it. I want to see what death looks like in someone's eyes. And he's a crazy fucker. We'll just say that. He has always wanted to take people apart. And so what is he? He's pre-med, because it's a way where he can take people apart, and it's okay to do it, I guess. But now she's caught Killian's attention, and he just can't let her go. So he's going to stalk her and follow her and fuck with her both the day and the night and just play with his new toy. And the thing about this series that I always bring up is that I really, really love this, even though I didn't necessarily like because this is a second generation series, I didn't necessarily care for the first generations. But what I love about this series is it gives us this very interesting dichotomy of like everyone's the children of HEAs from the past, right? So there's no like dead parents that people have damage because of dead parents. There's no like, well, I won't say there's no like bad past. Like there's still damage you can have even when you have good parents, and they're good parents as in they're both together and they're happy, but they are still all involved in like organized crime and stuff, so they can only be so well behaved, you know. But I love this series so much, and the last book comes out later this year, and I'm obsessed with it. So each one of them basically has one of the characters is like more villainous than the other. So, you know, this whole series, you have like antiheroes who feel like the villain to their love interest until they're not. Like, that's the way I would put it, because they're still all protagonists for sure, but they're the ones who are like villains until they're not anymore, if that makes sense, which I guess is all of these books that I'm talking about. This is our last black and red book. Now we're going to switch colors. Okay, and then the last ones I want to mention, I actually want to mention a few in a series, because this series has multiple cases of like the villain getting the girl. And this is the series that I come back to again and again as one of the darkest series I've ever read. So maybe you know what I'm going to say. So we have the Deliver series by Pam Godwin. So I just grabbed this first book, but I'm going to talk about a couple books in the series. First off, Pam does this, again, multiple times in this series, where the character who is like the antagonist of one book then gets their romance in the next one. And I sometimes, frequently while reading the series, I was like, how can that be the love interest in this one? You know, like I would just be like, how can that person be the love interest after what they just did in this book? Like, that's how it works for me, right? Because we have Vanquish, where Van Kiso is absolutely one of the like main antagonists in the Deliver, but he has a tragic past too of how he got where he was, and when we get his romance, he is the villain in his love interest story too, until he's not, and it's beautiful. So there's that. Then in Disclaim, it also feels like a villain, and especially Take, which is book 5. Those ones all really feel like it's the villain getting the girl. Those ones do. So I love it. And Pam Godwin is full of complex characters who some of them feel like villains, and you don't know how she can make you care about them, and then she does. And yeah, I highly recommend you give them a whirl and give her a try, and, you know, just go in without any expectation. And I mean, yes, go in with a strong stomach and go in being able to handle some things, but her series like took me to places I couldn't expect. And after the second book, I stopped looking up trigger warnings because, well, I wasn't even someone who looked up trigger warnings. I wouldn't call it looking that. I would read the reviews is what I would do, right? And that was like the old school way how you find out what's in a book, right? Because Pam has never had a trigger warnings list until her most recent book, which will be coming out, because times have changed, and that's fine. But what made her so powerful is that because I couldn't anticipate where it would go and I wasn't trying to figure it out, I just lived in the moment with the characters. And like, yeah, some of the moments are truly horrific, but each story in here, each of the 9 books in this series has an HEA at the end. And so you know that that's waiting for you. So no matter what this character is doing, where you're like, how are they going to get an HEA at the end? No matter how we get to that, like, you know that it will happen. And there's just something really powerful about that, in my opinion, because you just are like, okay, Pam, how am I going to get on board with Van getting a woman at the end? How's this going to work? But then it does. So there you go. Those are some stories where the villain or the anti-hero gets the girl. Tell me some of your favorites. This is by no means an extensive list. I just tried not to only have Mafia romances, and it's still half of them were, because I read a lot of those. So tell me some of yours. Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to support the channel, you can do something as simple as giving it a like. If you want to support in other ways, you could leave a thank you, or you could check out my Patreon or my Ko-Fi or any of those if you want to support the channel long term. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.